Hello, good morning, my dear friends. I hope you are all good and well. So, my name is SK. So, today our chapter name is the poverty and the social sector. So, we are going to discuss here the in detail what is the poverty and what is the social sector. So, don't worry. Teaching about I am teaching all definition, and I'm going to teach here the all definition and all that data which most important to the you in exam to the write and also be the remember recalling. So please be share and subscribe it another person, okay? And also if you like this video, also be the like it, okay? So what is mean by the poverty in India? Most important concept. So poverty is defining as minimum basic consumption level initially for the survival. It has to it has been defined by the Planning Commission of the India in terms of the calorie intake. The absolute poverty is the condition where the calories intake is less than 20 200 2400 calories per person per day in rural area, 200 2100 calories per person day in urban area. So World Bank has coined its own universal definition of the poverty level as per the person consumption of the less than US $1 per day. Relative poverty is across the difference in income levels of the rich and relative poor, even by this crude definition of the Planning Commission absolute poverty. It is estimated that over 213 million people are living below poverty line. Most important statement. According to the definition of the World Bank, the number of would be increasing significantly. India is said to be have a large number of the people living in the BPL. The number of people BPL is even more higher than the entire population of the US. Poverty is a large, concentrated in states such as the UP, Bihar, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, and West Bengal. They counted for over the 50% of the total poverty in India. Despite over the 6 decades of independence, now is the 7th decade, why the poverty is continue to exist? It can be attributed to the large economic dependency on the agriculture sector and the subsistence, the traditionally the stagnating, which are not able to be the providing the enough for the independence population in terms of the employment opportunity, high level of the adult illiteracy, and large number of the landless and small marginal farmers with a no income support. There is the absence of the employment opportunity in manufacturing sector. It is not about the how the poverty is the measure, the crude and the refined. It is the biggest curse of the post-independence India of not being able to be addressing the large scale of the poverty in country, despite to the well-intended scheme can be seen in a following section. I hope you understand. So this is the what is meant by the poverty in India. So blah blah. So second our concept is the social sector. What is the social sector and how it is going? So we are going to discuss here the social sector about. The social sector and poverty are interrelated as it largely compromise of those the BPL and also that segment of the population which is the outside the mainstream of development, which is the consistent of the under the privilege, always to the receiving the end of the poor, backward classes and the scheduled caste tribes. It will also have the landless small marginal farmer who are the engaged with a casual work in informal sector, living virtually on a daily basis. They are the most of vulnerable section prone and exploitation, the domination, and do not be have any voice or can also be the no as a silent sufferer or mere to the spectator to their of the pitiable and pathetic the condition of oblivious of the fact that the India is today one of the fastest growing economies. One has already seen earlier why this has happened, but what has the government done about this? It has adopted the three-pronged the strategy to addressing the social sectors, which is are following. First is broad targeting, second is the narrow targeting, and third is the social security. So we are going to discuss one by one. First is the broad targeting. So what are the broad targetings here? So let's start. Under the broad targeting, the government has the two ambition, the program. First is a Bharat Nirman 2005 to 2010, which has a 6 sub-programs. First is irrigation to bring the traditional 1 CR hectare under the irrigation facility. Second is rural road connectivity, covering the all villages with a population more than 1,000 villages in a hilly and tribal area. Population more than 500. Indira Awas Yojana, building 6 million house for the poor. Potable water, providing the drinking water in 55,000 new habitation. Rural electrification and electricity to the 1,25,000 villages benefit the 223 million household. Rural telephone, providing the telephone to connection to the 66,822 villages. Second is the program of the UPA government, which has the 8 ambition flagships scheme. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, all the children in age of the group 6 and 14th year to be the enrolls in the school by the 2010. Midday meal schemes in the provision of the one wholesome full meals in the children in school. This is the meat both in object malnutrition amongst the children and also to given a boost to the enrollment ratio in school. The Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Schemes. Third, fourth is the total sanitation campaign. Fifth, Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewable Mission. Sixth, Integration Child Development Service. Seventh, National Rural Health Mission. Eighth, Rajiv Gandhi Drinking Water Scheme. All of the above, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Schemes means Manrega, short form, is a most of the ambitious project of the government which is being implemented at the national levels of the magnitude not seen in the anywhere in the world. It is a brainchild of the Jane Drez, a Belgium economist. So he is the pioneers of the, his name is Ben Drez. The scheme has now begun the enacted and the guarantee unskilled wage of employment of 100 days to the one person in every rural household at the minimum wage. The 100 days employment under these schemes is the visualized to lane the season of the agriculture activity. The scheme is being implemented in all the districts of the countries and is seen as measure of the step in creating the employment opportunity and also for the poverty alleviation in the country. Women are given the preference for the employment under these schemes, which has no middleman on a contractor, directly being implemented by the Gram Panchayat, and wage are paid in the bank account of those who are provided with employment. The state government are required to be given the unemployment allowance of the 1/3 of the wage if not able to provide within the 15 days of the registration. The scheme has been globally lauded as one of the most of the well-intended the scheme for the social sector anywhere in the world. The critic of scheme, however, they feel such as the scheme could be the dumping in a long run by the pushing by the minimum wage, increasing the cost in agriculture as well as the urban area, diversely affected in the productivity and also prevention of the migration of labor beside the fueling the inflation. Narrow targeting. So there is so many narrow targeting. We are going to see which is the most important. The government is the attempting the narrow targeting, which are the following: the wage employment schemes and the primary through the Mahatma Gandhi Manregas, the self-employment schemes primary through the Savarna Jayanti Gramin Saharojgar Yojana in rural area through the Savarna Jayantis Shahri Rozgar Yojana in the urban area. The food security primaries through with the TPDS and Antodaya and Annapurna scheme for the senior citizen. So social security, what are the here we also be going to discuss. So I already be mentioned here social security. First is Aam Aadmi Bima Yojana. So government is providing the social security under the various of the programs, such as first is the Aam Aadmi Bima Yojana. The scheme is the targeting at the rural landless household, where one is the earning the member within the age group of the 18th to 59th year in the insured at the premium of the 200 per year borne the 50% by the central government and the remaining 50% to be the borne by the state government. The coverage of the 13,000 of the natural death and 75,000 the accidental death. The additional incentive, the children of the insured, the studying of the 9th class to 12 could be getting in the scholarship in the 300 quarters. Universal. Second is universal health insurance schemes. The schemes of the government is being implemented by the Oriental Insurance Company aim at the PPL families. The scheme is providing the coverage of the hospitalization expenses into the 13,000 per year as person the insured under the schemes. The premium is 165 per annum for the individual and 248 per annum for the family 5 members and the 313 per annum for as the family 7 members. Janasri Bima Yojana. The scheme is being implemented by the Life Insurance Corporation of India aimed to the BPL family, providing the insurance coverage at the premium of the 200 per annum, the coverage of the 20,000 for natural deaths and the 50,000 and accidental death. Swavalamban Yojana. Swavalamban Yojana is the new pension schemes is the launches by the government. This scheme is applicable in all the citizens belonging to the 18 to 55 age groups who join the new pension schemes and administered by the pension fund regulatory and development authority PFRDA means PFRDA. Under the schemes the government will be the contribute the 1,000 per year each and the NPS account opened in year 2010 and 11 for the next 3 years, that it is 2011, 12, 13, 14. So benefit will be available only the person who join the NPS with a minimum contribution of the 1,000 and maximum contribution of the 12,000 per annum. Rajiv Gandhi Shramika Kalyan Yojana. The ESI, the scheme has the introduction to the scheme of the unemployment allowance to be the IP who has been the rendered the unemployment and involuntary due to be the closure to be the factory of the established and the retrenchment and the permanent invalidity, the rising out of the non-employment injury affected to the IPA as to their families will also be entitled to the medical care from the ESI, the dispensaries and the hospital during the period of the unemployment allowance. They will be providing the unemployment allowance in cash and equivalent to be the 50% of their wages for the maximum period of the 6 months, and the worker is however shall have the contribute to be the ESISC, the scheme for at a late of 5 years to be became the eligible for the scheme. The Atal Pension. The Atal Pension Yojana is the new pension schemes and initiated by the government for the citizen of the India belonging to the age group of the 18 to 14 years. It's focused to be the unorganized sector workers under the APA. The minimum pension of the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 per month is guaranteed by the government and depending on the contribution by the subscribers and will being to be the age of the 60 years. Government would also be the contribute the 1,000 rupees per annum and 50% of the total contribution of the whichever it's lower to be the each can eligible can be subscribers of the APA and during the period of the first July 2050 and March 2060. Who is the most of the he who is not a income taxpayer, he is not a beneficiary of the any social security schemes, and government would be the contribute only for 5 years from the financial year. All the Swavalambi schemes would be the merged with these schemes. Okay friends, we are moving. So why has been the afflatora of the scheme not yield the desire of the result? Are the few reasons for their so failures are following. So what is it? First one is the government has well designed schemes, and question is not be about the intention but implementation of the schemes, and there was not a proper identification of the targeted the beneficiary. There is also be lack of the awareness of the schemes among the masses, given to there be illiteracy of the ignorance. There is also be third is there is also be the absence of the any monitoring mechanism for the efficiency for such schemes or the to no one the end of result. In focus is increasing the outlay and the few schemes, but there is no mechanism of the tracking down the outcomes. Fourth is it may be the better to be implemented these programs through be the NGO after with the strict to the screenings, and the processing also be the proper of the check the balance in place. Fifth, there is a need to the bring the independent social audit. First time is the social audit I think happened in the Meghalaya. If you want to be the know the, you can search in the Google, you will get the how did they done. So scheme not for the fixing of the accountability, but for the plugging to the leakaging, the improving the delivery. So the as to the making in the scheme effectiveness through to their intention for the overall the benefits of the social sector. 6. Today there is the availability of the modern technology which can be the deploy for the capturing the information, creating the database which will enable to tracking in the mechanism for targeting the group and their reach, and will be the useful in refining the scheme in future. The 7th is finally focus on the government has to be the scheme, so many of that they overlaps with a diffuse focus and accountability at different level. So aspect of the changing in the orientation for the schemes to the peoples are in a village could be the better of the strategy is also be the lead to the coverage of the all the schemes. This could be the done in the following in the cluster of the approach, which is to the implemented all the schemes in the starting from in the most of the backward villages and the branches in the together as cluster. For the schemes is the implemented as ensuring the sustainability by the transferring and the norms of the further development to be the village and then moving to the another cluster. It would be the responsible government to monitoring the functioning of the cluster of village, and that are be the assisted through with the scheme. This would be the providing for the better delivery of the schemes, and proper monitoring also be for the accountability of the effort will be the lead to be the fundamental changes as a need of the village would be getting to the assisted the first and not the other way to around it. It will also be the able the government to be the acquire the understanding of the source of the require, and then government could look at the various of the alternative of the implementing them the right wines of right since of the independence. This problem has been the persisted. It has also been the engaged the attention of the successive and the government, but it is has also been through with the increasing the outlay and new schemes which have been the launches for them the year after years in the without the tangible the benefit, and that is now the acquire is to be the tackling them to the different the few suggestions have been the provided earlier and not they are bounded to the success, but will be the display the attitude of the government of the willings to the experiment to the finding the long lasting of the solution to the vexed the problems. The government has to be the keeping in mind that it is not a source of which is the matter, but their efficiency of the spending the technology unable to monitoring the mechanism and being to be the learning. The curve each years of the reorientation the successful addressing the needs of social sector. Let us to the also be the admit that the tax the is the daunting, but it has to be the compulsion one way or the other major challenges for the government, both center and state collectivity. So microfinance. So we are going to be the microfinance. It is third concept. Microfinance is the most important things in economics. So every economies, even India and other countries also. So given, so let's start. So given that the social sector do not have the access to the organized resources of the finance, say through the banks, and also given their experience in paperwork, the cumbersome in the procedures and the documentation of the requirements, and the microcredit institution are today seen since as the offering as a solution both for the social sector as well as addressing the issue of poverty. This is the institution as a concept. There is a genesis in the Bangladesh pioneered by the Muhammad Yunus, for which he has awarded the Nobel Prize, and the successfully institution for the reaching out the last unit of the economics, not possible through the banks and directly the contributing to the upliftment of the poor, especially in rural women. In India, is the self-help movement is started in the 1992 under the NABARDs and with a involvement of the banks. Under the self-help schemes, credit is linked to the saving, to the focus and the capacity, the building, and with a low interest rates of the usually 8 and 10% of the with a monthly and payments, but responsible of the groups and not a individual. Self-help groups is the India is to cover the 90 million poor households and having the extent and the credit over the 25,000 crores. More microfinance institution is the institution which are providing the credit to the poor but at the high interest rate but low than the charge by the monetary lenders. IMF is as the India has the engaged to the attention of the government only since 2003. In last 7 years has been to the exponentials of the expansion to the reaching the 13 million credit over the 30,000 crores. This have been seen as the pertaining to the self-help groups in microfinance in India as also to be the major way to through which is a country could be the provide the financial inclusion, and that is to be the providing accessibility to the organized source of the finance to the poor peoples and reducing their with the dependency on the money lenders for their income generating on the activity, enabling them to having a source of income, employment, and also getting out of the poverty. However, the recent of the times IMFs and especially Andhra Pradesh has to be new dimension is rising in the following fundamental issue. First one is the prime motives it to earn the profit through with the high profit the margin by the clearing the high interest rates but slightly be lower than the charges by the money lender. Second is the IMF has the reaches out to be those ignored by the banks had also be the fact that are not with the complementing the effort of the banks. There is a sizable of the concentration of the IMFs in area where there is a banking of the penetration. IMFs are the finding the softwares and the options of the leading like the self-help groups, which is a lead to the multiplies and financing debates and the burdens of the borrowing. Fourth is the IMFs are the aggressive and are more consumer oriented loans, less productivity oriented, similar like to the private banks selling to consumer loans or the US banks leading to the subprime borrower. The developments have the force to the government to the rethink on this model of the finance inclusions and adding the in place of regulation of IMF. The fourth concept of the spreading the jam, the cross in economics. The large scale of technology enabled the real-time direct benefit transfer can improve to economics life of the Indian poor and the JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobiles, the JAM's full forms, and can help to the government implement them over the past years, and JAM has to be depended its coverage at the astonishes the rating of the creating in the around the 4 million account per weeks and the several of the mobiles, monies and operators per licenses. The cash transfer can directly improve the economic lives of the India poor and raising the economic efficiency to by the reducing the leakage of the market distortions. Implementing direct benefit transfers at large scales in the real times remaining once of the government is the key object. The significance of the programs has been made in the past years. JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, mobiles, helping to the government to implement the direct benefit transfer effectively. the requirement of the government wanted to the transfer 1,000 rupees every Indian tomorrow. The first is the government must be able to identify the beneficiary. Second is the government must be able to transfer the money to the beneficiary, and beneficiary must be able to be easily access their money. The failure of the first aspect lead to the inclusive, the error leakage, the benefit intended for the poor flow to the reach a ghost household, the resulting in the fiscal loss. The failure in another two aspects to the leading to the excluding error to the union, and the beneficiary are unable to the avail the benefits. The government must be especially the sensitive to exclusions of the errors and which types hurt in the poorest. Ingredients of the jobs. Initially the components of the jobs are the listed below. First one is the government beneficiary challenges of the identification. Second was the government banks is challenge the payment. And third, the beneficiary are last, the miles of challenge of the getting to money into the people's and hands. So our fourth concept, universal basic income, is the most important concept. It can ask anywhere any questions. So basic income, what is the basic income and how it is rising now. So let's start. What is the basic income? Is the universal basic income. So whipping every tear from the every year. This is the poem on basis of the principle of the universality and unconditionalities and agency in hallmarks and universal basic incomes. The number of the implemented challenges lying to the ahead, especially in rising, that the UBIs would be become and add on to rather than replacement of the current anti-poverty of the social program, which is would make it the physical unaffordable, but given the multiplicity, the cost is the questionable effectiveness and real opportunity affordable by the rapid improving the jobs and infrastructure. UBI hold the prospect of the improving the upon to status quo. Introduction. Despite to the making of the remarkable and the progress in the bringing to downs in the poverty from about the 70% at independence. Independence to about the 22% in 2012, 11-12. Tendulkar committee, it can be safely to be the said that whipping the every tears from the every eyes. It is about the a lot of more than being able to be the imbibe a few calories. The Mahatma Gandhi understand to that better of the deeper and earlier than all the Marxists are the market of the Messians and the materialist and the behavioralist and the instituted, and that it is also be about the dignity and the vulnerability of the self-control and the freedoms and the mentals and the physiologically unburdens and the form in the aspect of the Nehru exhortations that and so long as there are the tears of the sufferings and so long our working will not be the over is very much of the true in nearly 70 years after the independence. The today's the option to be the realized to the Gandhiji objective, the presence itself of the it has to be the enter to the policy and consciousness in India is around the word universal basic income UBI for the short. UBI has the three components like universality, unconditionality and agency. So the conceptual philosophy in case for the UBI, universal basic income is the radically is the compliance to the paradigm and shifting to the thinkings about the both social justice and the productivity income. Universal basic income is the like to many rights and unconditional universal. It is required to that every person should have the right to the basic incomes to the cover their need just by the virtue of the being the citizen. The time has to be the came to the things of the UBI, the number of the regions. Social justice first thing, the UBI is first foremost a taste of the justice non the exploitative capacity. The universal basic income is the promote the meaning of the basic value of the society, which is the respect to the all the individual as free equal. It's promote to be the liberty, and because it is the anti paternalistic, the open of the possibility of flexibility in labor markets. It promote to be the equality by the reducing the poverty. It's promote to the efficiency by the reducing the waste in the government of the transfer, and it is could be the under the sum of the circumstance even promoting the greater productivity. It is not a incident. The universal basic income has been the embers by the both by the thinking by the left and right. Second, poverty reduction. The condition of the presence of the well functioning in the financial system. Universal basic income may simplify to the fastest of the reducing poverty, and UBI is also be the paradoxically more flexible in the country like the India, where it is can be the pegs at the relative low levels of the incomes, but still yield the imminence and the welfare of the gain. Third is employment. UBI is an the acknowledgement that is the society's obligation to the guarantee of the minimum living standards even with the more and urgent in area of the uncertainty of the employment and generation, and moreover the UBI could be also be the open of the new possibility for the labor market. It is to be the labor market of the without the fear and losing to the benefit. They also be the more they also for a more non-exploitative the bargaining, and the since individual will no longer to be the forced to the accept to the any work conditions and just so they that they can the subsisted. Administrative efficiency. India is to the particularly in case of UBI has to be the enhancing to the because of the work weakness of the existing of welfare schemes, and which are with the redundant with a misallocations and leakages of the explosions of the poor. When the trinity of the jam others of the mobiles is the fully of the adapted in the time could be the time. Okay, time could be the reap for the reap for a mode of the delivery that administratively the more efficiency, and the administrative arguments however has to be the to be made with some of the care, while with the other is the designed to solve the identification problems. If the cannot on its own and solve the targeting in the problems, it is important to be the recognized that the universal basic income will not be the diminishes the need to the build the state capacity. That state will still have to enhancing its capacity to providing a whole range of the public goods. UBI is not a substitute for the state capacity. It is a way of the ensuring that state welfare transferring are more efficient that so that a state can the concentrate on other public goods. Our last concept is conceptual case in UBI. So from the income points of the views, there are the three principles related to objection to be the universal basic incomes. First is the whether the UBI reduction of the incentive to the work. This is arguments in the vastly with the exaggerate from the one thing is the level at the which is the universal basic income are the likely to be the place are going to be the minimal of the guarantee at the best. They are unlike to be the crowds and incentive to the work. One school is the thoughts that could be the argue that it is the truly be the diminuous. The woman of the dignity is supposed to that only be the motivation for the which is the people work is the unnecessary. The takeaway for the yoke, dignity are supposed to be the only of the motivation. The taking away to yoke the necessity, and they will be the lazy. Some kind of arguments need to be the made against the high wage, and that is the if the wage rising in beyond the certain levels of the worker will choose the leisure over the work. There is a little of the evidence and sustain the position. The second concern is the should the income is the detaches for the employment. The honest of the economics answer is this is the concern is that the society already does this, but largely for its rich privilege. Any society where any for the inherence of the accepting the non-working of the relative the incomes is allowed the already to be the detaches from the income employment. So receiving as the small unearned incomes as it is the where for a state could be the economically morally less the problematic than is the panoply of the unearned income over the society alone. Third is the concern about the reciprocity. It is the society to be the indeed to scheme of the social corporation should corporation should be the income of the unconditional with no regarding the people have contribution. So these are the problems and these are the our chapters. This is our chapters or total I detailedly discuss it. So please subscribe and like and share it and tell another.